So we were on Core Connector Integrations Part B, the module 15, Core Connectors Part B. So far what we have already seen is integration business processes. I have introduced you just like what is security and stuff, but I have not shown you how to create an ISSG or an ISU. Let's just go through the slides for BP first. I will see if I have missed something. Okay, yeah. I think we did not discuss about one of these topics, that initiation approval. What are the different options available for a BP thing? One second, I'll show you. Those are not very complex things, but yeah, actually. Okay, for that we will. Why is it giving an error? Now there's no definition. That integration. There is no definition. We did created a definition last time, right? Why is it saying? Okay, so yeah, to go to integration BP, what you have to do is like search for that particular integration you have created with the prefix int sys, int sys colon, and then the integration name or key word you want to search it for. Then go on the home page. There would be a tab in the below part of the screen where you have integration attributes. By default, it opens with integration attributes. But the third tab here would be integration map. From there, you can open this link in a new tab or maybe whichever way you like. So this is how a business process definition would look like. And workflow step triggers document table. Okay, yeah. Table we had created and left it with I didn't remove. So that's good that we came here. So for editing a BP, we saw how to create a BP. Even for editing a BP, what do we have to do is like we go to the default business process definition or the top level definition, go to the related actions, go to business process, go to okay. It will again like we created. During the creation also we had an effective date, and here as well we have an effective date for the this to be initiated or to be saved as. So whatever you change for from now on will be effective from the date time you gave in editing on the first window that appears. So I did not, maybe I do not want this to be configured because I do not have a document retrieval. Even I do not have a document delivery for now, but maybe I leave this one to show you how document delivery step would be triggered. This is a dummy SFTP configure route at the end, but yes, it will show you after the core connector has completed how a business process transactions or a business process from the end proceed to the next step. Okay, so what I wanted to show you guys was something like this. So whenever you add a new step, so there are different columns available to you within this table. One is order. Order is the key which will help you identify the or mention the flow of the business process. So A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, anything would be taken here. But yes, since the logical ascending order would be followed here, then if there is a parallel step or not, this is directly mostly used in functional configurations, like you want to initiate the BGV check for a candidate who has been initiated a hire, as well as maybe send forms to him. So maybe in those kind of scenarios, parallel steps are required. Okay, notes is something you can skip, or it's just random things that you can put a note about this particular step, right? The main things to focus in here are what is the type of. For the type, we have a lot of options available. There is action, there is approval chain, batch, job, checklist, consolidated approval chain, integration, report group, review document, service, to do. Okay. So since this business process definition is a very generic, I would say, kind of available for everyone in the tenant, and the functional people are the ones who use it more frequently than us. So you can see a lot of things related to the functional setup, like approval is going, how the next step has a checklist or not. So, but for our integration purposes perspective, what we have in is service is one of the main things, and integration is one of the main things, and maybe at times you might need to trigger a report from the as well. That is one of the few things you would be using to do certain tasks on a business process. Okay. So first I'll show you service. What are the different options available? So these specify options drop down will vary depending upon the type of service. So the type you are using here. So yeah, coming to the specify tab, I think what we have is create case, create document delivery, document retrieval, fire integration, orchestration service, secure credit card outbound, step configuration placeholder. So for us, the things you would be using frequently would be anything like document delivery, document retrieval, or fire integration. These three things. Okay. So document delivery is something like what we already saw, delivering some documents to outbound SFTP or outbound source. Retrieval is something fetching the documents and bringing it in Workday for processing. And fire integration, initiating an integration step, which is also one of the default steps whenever you create a BP definition for an integration. This is one of the default steps that gets created already. Okay, yeah. For services, we have this, and then there is one more thing as integration. So as soon as you select integration, you see now the specify will not appear in here, but if you save this integration, you have told them this. One second. I have mentioned this. And then delete it later on. So now you have mentioned integration, but how would the integration know that which integration to be run? So this is where the configuration will happen. Configure integration. Once you have saved the business process, you can click on this button. Maybe you can say check for any DT integration, new DT. I will remove this, just starting for, and this is a dynamic name, static name of the integration. So we will just use this. Okay. So as soon as you use this integration to be configured, it will trigger as the next step for the main or the parent business process, which is CCW demo. Now you see the error has also gone, and now instead of configure integration, there is a step called configure DNU. That's written in. Okay, so those are the options available to you on, and I don't need it for now. Okay, so what all we have is document delivery being attached to this integration, and I think now this error will also go. Okay, so that's where you need to check if you see any errors or warnings popping up on whenever you go to the home screen of the integration. Please do verify if what those errors are or warnings are, and try to, even if it's a warning for which you can go ahead and run the integration, if there is an error or bad one, you won't be able to launch the integration in the first place. But even if there is a warning, try to see what the issue is, and if you can just remove the issue because if it's a valid issue that maybe you have configured a sequence generator but not given a file name kind of thing. So do check and go in and configure the thing mentioned in the warning and then try to run the integration. Okay, so those are the things that we saw: integration approval to do integration service, initiation and fire integration. There is a step on the service, that is fire integration is something that comes to default whenever you create a business process definition for an integration. And then services and configuring another integration on your BP is something you will see quite often while configuring any integration or working on any integrations. Not just CCW, but yes, any kind of integration. Be it I would say, be it a studio integration, a payroll integration for which like you have a PG XML and then you want to send it into a particular kind of SAP format, which is a CSV. So since the vendor is SAP, you want to send it in a particular format. So you might need certain kind of logics or transformations. So you can consume that CCW or the PG output inside a studio, and the final output will be delivered via studio. So those things are possible to us. Delivery services we have seen with that as well. So on the test transport, you have three options available to you: connect, list files, and deliver files. Connect is like just simply connect to check the connection between the Workday setup you have done and the SFTP that is targeted. List files is something you want to check if we have been delivered or not, because on the integration it says delivered, but you just want to make sure that it has not errored out in somewhere, or is it really delivered or not. So what you can do is, after the event has been completed and the integration says the file has been delivered, you can go to the SFTP configuration and just the transport and select list files. Once you select list files, it will, if the file has been delivered, it will show you the name of the file sitting on that. And deliver file is just type of delivering a test or dummy random file, which is automatically created by Workday, which is an empty file. It will just have a file name and that will be delivered to the target. We have already done this activity. So coming to security. So security for access of integration templates, systems, and events. Workday provides several security domains that secure users' accesses to integration templates and integration systems. These domains separate the permission needed to configure an integration from the permissions needed to run the integration templates, and then grant access separately for each segment. Okay, so this is something representing similar to what we saw for CCW, right? Or maybe for other integrations as well, that like for reports, I told you, you need a minimum domain of a report admin and a report writer to work on custom reports. So these are the minimum requirements for security for your access to have these configurable opportunities to work on a integration. That is called integration build, integration configure, integration debug, integration event, integration support, and integration subscriptions. Okay, so these are the minimum permissions and that you need access to. Or even if you create your ISUs or you want your ISUs to run the integration, then these are also the domains you will want your integration security group to have. Okay, so in terms of integration security, we will see that we have two components. One is integration system security group, and then there is a system user. Okay, but coming back to the slides, access to Workday. All access to Workday data is done through web service operations and report as a service. So yes, in the background, it's either a web service operation, which is using maybe even a Workday core connector is also checking for a web service called as a get worker in the background and giving you the results. Okay, and something we have already seen, which you can use to fetch any kind of data with your custom filters or prompts being built on. These are service operations, the report data sources, report field system are secured by various security domains. Exactly. And Cloud Connect and Studio integrations require an integration system user account for authentication to access the web service task. So yes, this states that any integration system, Studio integration, be it a core connector, PG connector, is highly asked to have a ISU, which is an integration system user. So, and I think the one of the main use cases or recommendation is because if you have developed this integration for now and you are running it and your permissions and everything is working fine, but you go up from this assignment and you try to join another project or something else. Okay, so once you are not available, maybe a new person would come in and say, okay, you provide them KT, how to run and all. But when they go in, they do not have the skill permission. So this integration might not be even visible to him at times, or maybe when he or she is running the integration, you will not get the proper data. So that's why it is advised to have a ISU which will be there in the system every time, irrespective of who runs it. The integration will run with the security permission of an ISU and not your credentials or your security. Currently, what I am doing, even for demos, what you have seen is I'm just running the integration. So if I go and show you the events, so again, I think integration events is something process monitor kind of phase, but specific to a particular integration where you can just go into the integration system and then select the first option as integration event, where you will have this integration system name already being populated. You can also filter out on, say, certain statuses you just want to check: failures, completed with errors, completed with warnings, initiated, purged, queued. All these statuses are available on a integration. Okay, you want to see by person who has done this, and there is also a date range kind of parameter which has already been built in. So say this integration is in the system since 2 to 3 years and is running twice a day. So if you are going into the integration events directly, if I just click OK right now, it will give me all the integration events for this integration that have ever been triggered. But I don't want this report to run for such a long time and wait. So what I'll do is, if I'm looking for a specific kind of date parameter, that okay, there was an issue between this period only, so I want to look into the integration events 1st of February to our current date. Okay, so I'll do this kind of thing, and it will give you the events only belonging to that date range. Okay, and this is where I wanted to show you that if you see in the integration system, we have integration event in here, system in here, and this is the by person. So this is where my user, if you see, this Eric name has been given to it. That's why it's saying that this was run by user. But later on, we will see if I create an ISSG and create an ISE, how this changes and how it will be helpful for us. Okay, coming back to the slides. Okay, in order for the integration to work correctly, okay, we have done this. Okay, create integration system security group, and system user group is created.
I have a so can you go to the 17th slide? Can you explain the last paragraph, 17th? Yeah.
This one.
Yeah.
In order for the integration to work correctly, the ISU security group must have put and get access to the domains that contain web service operations that interact with the necessary data. Okay. So yeah, I was going to show you this instead of but this states is what it states is like, as I told you, right? You are currently running the integration. So your access is sorted. Maybe you have been provided a super user kind of access, that you have access to all the domains that might be required for our trainings or for these sessions. But an HR admin wants to run, and you have given that okay, you try to run. So the integration event or the integration launch kind of security he does have. Okay. But he does not have, or she does not have that kind of detailed security domain accesses like personal information access, like national identifiers access, integration IDs access. So if they do not have, so everything in Workday, I think even during reporting I've shown you what are domains. So it's set up for Workday business objects. So even till field level, there are domains that are governing or securing those accesses. So every domain would have a particular set of put and get access. What is put and get? What is like sending the data into Workday. If you want to send some data, particularly into that field, say you want to send passport ID information. Okay. So if unless until you have an access to put the information under personal information and then identity information under that, the passport or the national identifier field, unless until you have those permissions, you won't have access to put. It will error out. Okay. So that's the detail of or the level of security you have in Workday, that every domain, every field object, every kind of field within that particular domain can have domains, can have subdomains. So unless until you have the access till that subdomain level, you won't be able to do it. And if you ask me, how would you know? This is something where even till date, any of the integration consultant who's working on projects is going to have a hidden trial. So even okay, yeah. So it would be hidden trial because these domains are very much vast in numbers or have different functionalities. I would say maybe what the example I told you is something on the national IDs, because I might have already worked on it a multiple number of times. So I remember this kind of thing where it would need a particular domain for saving or getting or putting an ID information into a worker. But yes, there is a new requirement which I have not worked, and it deals with something, say a compensation grade. And I'm not sure where the compensation grade is in. Okay. So there is a task in Workday which says, I think I've shown you earlier while reporting as well. If view security for securable item, this is a very important task in terms of an integration developer, because you want to see the compensation Great. So you want to check the security of any object, any field, anything. You just give in the key name here or the item name in here. It will randomly select and search for anything which has a name mentioning your search. It gives you see, it gives you the task. So tasks are certain web services or tasks you see on the UIs as well, right? There can be two kinds of tasks. So these tasks also had the word compensation grade. They are coming to you. So now you're saying if you want to put, or maybe if you want to get a compensation grade through a web service, then you need to have a security in these functional areas and domains. So if I'll click on security, this is the domain securities that are holding these, and like these are the domain security policies, and these are the permitted security groups. So this is where you add certain kind of security group, which we'll see in some time when I go ahead and create and assign some security to the ISSG. Okay, so this is how you try to get what kind of security you need. But for our purpose, this was not a task. I wanted access to a particular field called as compensation grade. Okay, so I will see. Okay, this is the field I wanted. That was there on compensation grade, but it is I want a compensation grade on compensation grade profile on compensation business object. Maybe say employee compensation. Compensation grade profile, maybe on worker business object, you have that field. Okay. So what kind of security do you need? You can check in. Then that domain needs to be given access to SSC or ISU. That's how you do it, and this is all kind of a hidden trial. You will not never learn all the thousands, and I think more than even there can be thousands or more than thousands of domains, subdomains sitting inside of Workday, where you have different kinds of accesses for each task, for each report field, for data sources. So yeah, so that's where the key role comes in to just analyze what kind of security domains you need access to and then provide it into your okay. So that's why it says unless until you have these put and get access that contain the web service operations contract with the necessary data. Okay, creating an ISSG, creating an ISU, and then it says once the group is created, you may add integration users. Okay, yes, multiple integration system users can be associated to a single ISSG, right? So a group, from the name it suggests, since it's a group, it can have multiple ISUs inside a group. And why is it done? Because you are building core CCW, okay? You want kind of a similar accesses is required for all of these, and you will not go ahead and create each like a separate ISSG for each of these integrations. Since it requires the same kind of access requirements it has, you will just create identical or not identical, I would say a separate kind of ISUs with different names for each of these integrations. So ISU needs to be separate per integration, one ISU per integration. And all these four ISUs will be added into the same group or the same integration system security group ISSG. For providing permissions to a security group, that's what we talked about, that we need to get the web service operations, get both fields and all those things that's required, verified that the security used by the application system user account has put and get access. Again, treating the same thing that you need to verify. For custom integrations, your developer can give you a list of web service paths used by the integration. That's where when you call APIs or if you are going to use any web services within a studio, that's where you will have a list of web service tasks or operations coming to your way. Like, this is a web service operation task, and this is a normal task like create compensation grade, maintain compensation grade. This is the task, and that is a web service task. The difference is these are available on the UI, and this is something on the background. If you want to access or do any kind of manipulation of the data or to view the data, you need access to the web service task. Okay, so now we will go ahead and do this activity to create an ISSG, ISU, identify required permissions, verify, and maybe launch the integration with the ISU. Okay, so we have our here, and we have already seen how it shows like who has run this integration on the integration. So first what we'll do is maybe create a integration user, create integration system user. The name of our integration is RN demo. So I'll try to give it a similar kind of name, ISU underscore RN, so CCW underscore generate random password. You can use this. Workday will automatically generate a password. Okay. Do not allow UI sessions because this is a system user. No one will be is allowed to have access through this account. You don't want that, like the kind of Workday login screen you get. You don't want to put these credentials in that login screen. So you restrict the UI sessions. Okay. And then you just click on default. Primary work. Maybe for first thing, what I will do is you have already created an ISU and these are the default kind of security groups it has been assigned into because this comes on the tenant level that you have the editor, initiator, role maintainer, viewer. Unless until these are there, you won't be allowed to see these tasks of editor, do any changes on the ISU. Okay. So these are the default securities provided to you since you created an integration system user. You did not create a normal user, you created an integration system user. So the key task in here is integration system user. Okay. So we will just leave this on. This is an integration account. Yes, account enabled for data mapping. No, do not allow UI session. We have confirmed that. Yes. Okay. That's done. Now what we will do is create security group. Now remember, there is nothing as create integration security group. There is create security group because within security group task, we have different kinds of security. Tenanted security, we will use integration system security group unconstrained. Okay. I will give it ISSG, CGW. I give you this ISG a name. It opens like this. You don't want to inactivate. What I can do since I have already created the ISU, I will tag it in here already. So now this ISSG has been created and if you go SG, you do not see any kind of permissions being granted as of now. So what you do in here, you can go to this security group, maintain domain permissions for security group. Okay. Then we have two kinds of permissions. One is report/task permissions. One is integration permissions. Since we are going to use integration, this ISU on the integration, we will be giving anything on the integration permission side. If it's a ISU for a report, then that ISU might need certain kind of permissions for doing a report calculation or task permission. Even for certain cases in integrations as well, service operation needs to be taken care of. You will give this under the task permissions. Okay, so everyone, we are not putting anything. So you have to be very cautious. You don't get around by giving everyone a put access because put is a superior access. With put, you will always have get. Okay, put and get works in conjunction. So if you're able to edit it, you will definitely be able to see it, right? So that's the basic principle you can go by. So you don't want to let everyone or every ISU or every other user to give access to edit anything on the Workday tenant. So you be very cautious of it and wisely select put only in the cases where you want some certain information to be edited in your. So I will give it integration. These are the basic integration permissions you have seen on the slide as well, like what all integration permissions are required for at least running or doing operations on an integration. And since we are targeting to assign this ISU as the main user for the integration, we will need all these permissions. Integration subscriptions. I think that would be it. And since I say this is a hidden trial thing, whenever you go ahead and create an ISU and provide the ISSG with certain securities and you try to run the integration. So it can be in the first instance, it will not give you the exact amount of data you were seeing with your ID or your access, okay, or the expected output. So in those scenarios, what you do is like, again, come back here, try to figure out what domains might have been missing and then add them, okay. Now I want worker, data worker, okay. I want to do employment data. First, I want to see maybe higher stuff. I want to see worker staffing even because we are seeing positions and things. Okay. Reports, projects, unions, worker data, worker ID, worker position, data view access.
But Aryan, when we are just selecting this right now, but for the previous integration that we created, right, we never selected any of this, but we were able to still see the data in the outbound.
Right, yeah, because you were running it by your access. That's where I told you that since you are an integration developer or an implementer kind of access or similar kind of access has been created for you in this tenant, so you're kind of a super user.
Okay.
So you will have access to all of even these tasks you have access to, right?
Okay.
So you have a very broader access, but you do not want to give a similar kind of access to your ISU. So we just go ahead and select the required kind of permission. And it is running because, yes, you already have access to these domains. Okay, so disciplinary, worker data, employee contract, the review, worker data, job details, organization data, period, job interest, time pattern, worker ID code. Yeah, I think there are lots of things.
So here, so whatever we are selecting here would be whatever we are seeing on the output or whatever we are seeing or accessing in the eligibility criteria or right.
Until that, till the level of field. So you remember you selected personal data sections and then you are having values of the name, first name, last name, you are getting values of date of birth, gender.
Right. So person data selection and all that thing. So pertaining to that, we will do the selection here.
Exactly. So since you see there is a subdomain maybe that's constraining the name data. So you might be wanting to select this person data name kind of which is available to you, person data gender. Okay. Yeah. So this gets very tricky because in the first place, maybe you won't be able to get everything. But yes, as I told you, this is kind of a hidden trial. You try to add as much as you can like associate with the integration setup you have done. That's why we don't go ahead with creating this ISP at the first place. Maybe we first try to integration configured, and maybe even before running, if you want to do it, you can do creating an ISU and then go and view the access how it's working. But yes, unless until you know all the kind of sub data sections or data sections you will be needing or you will be configuring in the CCW or any kind of integration, you will not know. So you cannot use one for all kind of thing.
Generally, also we can access all this kind of access in production as well. In the production,
It depends. It depends, right? Yes. So if you have an implementer account in production, you can. Otherwise, there are production support teams. So what you do is like create this in your development tenant, and these are non-configurable, non-migratable. So what you do is like to take an extract of all the permissions you have provided to that ISU. Once you have logged in that okay, this is the final thing and it's working for me, you take an extract. Okay, you save it for yourself somewhere, and when you migrating to the team, maybe the production team, if they have access to, like if you are not having access, otherwise you will be going to do it yourself. If they have access and you are not allowed to look what's there in the production tenant, so you can give them this form and tell them that, okay, I will be migrating or we will be migrating this integration to production. Before that, I want the ISU or ISG creation to be done.
okay.
So yeah, date of birth, okay, private address, integration. Yeah, if you also want to see what this is there, I want to see like why is it saying email integration. So you can just click on the related action of this particular domain that's available from the drop down, and you can try to read the description. This domain provides access to the private home email address of workers or the get worker web services. In the background, CCW will also be using a kind of get worker. So you can use it if you have enabled that you want some addresses, even if it is private address marked within Workday, you want access to it, you can have it here. So I will leave it for now. The public home addresses. Okay, yes, I want public ones. Have public phone numbers. But I think numbers we have selected only work phone numbers. I won't be doing public phone number. So that's where you need to be sure. Like we have only configured phone number to be the work phone number to be outputted on the output file. Okay, so private, I think we need public private phone number. You can use the private phone number. Okay. And I think there was the data section. Okay. Multiple status, work data, background check, work data, student code, person data, military status, work data, master by, and then work data. Just the status has a subdomain restricting the access would be available under the worker data domain we have already selected, the main domain. And what other things? ID. The ID information is something I've already selected. ID identification. I will leave it for now.
Can you explain this get access and above we have view access?
Okay, so yeah, as I told you, this is integration permissions, right? So in integrations, you do not like you will have something as a put and get because you might be using the web services in the background, right? But for reports or any task, all you need to do is a view and modify kind of access because view is something you would be generally having because on reports you cannot do a modify. But maybe a user can have access to modify. Modify is something you do on the UI, not from the background or the integration. That's why it says modify. And view is something that's happening on the UI within a report kind of thing. So that's why we have view access. But for integrations, it is called get and put. It does not. It is not called as view and modify. And this is because I will show you once we save this. Okay, and always remember this alert that you see, right? Whenever you have created or done a configuration in the ISSG, you will have to go to the activate your pending security policy changes. It also gives you the task name using the activate pending security policy changes task and update the security evaluation. Okay, you will have to sign off that this security changes were done by you. Okay, once you by and they have been called with different name, view, modifier, get put. It still does not shows any much information about the domains and things. So even if you try to run the integration user as of now, with the CCW, it won't give you the result unless until you activate the security. I'm not sure if there are certain tenants which have this activation done automatically, so the functional people configure it to automatically activate in the developers and activate pending security policy changes. Okay. You enter a comment below, describe the security changes to be published on the following screen. So what you do is say security as a creation for INC or a demo. Okay. Try to provide a relevant comment that why are you doing this security update. Now you see all the security changes that were done by me are here. You see by user, what all changes I've been doing, integration event, all those domains I've given access to. So I clarify in here that this just whole my security configuration, but yes, there's something called as Logan someone is doing, maybe working, but have get the same time, right? No, it's from yes, you can see the time as well. So that's fine. Someone was trying to do some process supplier invoices, prepayments, changes on these domains as well. For our question, we'll just proceed. Otherwise, what you'll do is like maybe check with this person that is it something you really did and forgot to activate the security policy, or you drop the plan. So if that's the case, maybe you will ask them to undo whatever they have done, or maybe delete the security policies from there and then activate just yours. Okay, so that has now been done. So now as we have activated, the ISSG screen will look like something like this. Okay, domain security policy, functional areas it have, and then you see the operation. If you have an operation as a view or modify, within this ISSG, it will not show you its integration permission, report permission, task permission. So that's why we have given different names. so that you can identify, say, it is view, then it is related to a task or a report. If it is get, this is related to an integration. Okay, that's why. Otherwise, it's like in the background, it's get and put kind of thing only. View is like just seeing the data. You won't be able to do anything on the data. And similarly, get does the same operation for integration permission. You can only get the data or view the data. But if you put, like, if you give them a put access or a modify access, you can also modify the data in case of UI sessions or tasks, and put the data in case integration permissions with the web service operation. Okay, and how do I associate this ISU with the integration system? I go to integration system. I go to.
Sorry, I'm still not able to understand this view, and I know you said that it's a report level and the other one is at the integration level, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, but how it makes a difference in the output of the file?
Out of the file, it won't make a difference, but on the output of the report, it will, right? If you go and say create an integration and put the permissions just to view, your integration output will still not come. Unless until you put it into get, it will not come. And similarly, if you put it in a report permission in get and you do not give it in view, your report output will not come. So you have to identify, if you're working on an integration, you have to give them integration permissions. And if you're working on reports or tasks, you have to give them reports or task permissions. I think as simple as that. Okay. I hope that makes sense to you. Like, differentiate the kind of operation you want. You want integration, then simply get or put for integration. And if you want report or task, you simply view or modify. You do not have to like complicate yourself with diving like how it will differ or in the background what it do. We do not know what happens really in the
So report is like when the integration is calling a report also, right?
Yeah. So in that case, you'll have to give twice.
Okay.
There are a lot of questions.
So correct. So if whatever security
permissions you give in get, you will give it in view.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that does, and like that would be 60% of the time, say you are using a Workday Integration Studio integration. On the safe side, you give it in view or get both.
Okay.
Yeah.
In what scenarios we use constrained and unconstrained?
So I think then when those kind of questions, that's where I think the other participants on the class. So you know what is constrained because you are might be aware of certain things. But for our purposes of this sessions, I think unconstrained is something we will be looking. But yes, just for an overview, I will tell you constrained is something that will help you constrain the security. Say you want to give access to these domains, but only restricted to a particular supervisory organization or a pay group. Okay. Now again, then that comes with SCM kind of background, like what is a supervisory organization or a pay group. But yes, if you want to give, say, there is a supervisory organization in USA. Now, currently, what I've given is this: open up the security for all the workers with certain kind of security domains, right? But if I want to constrain that this ISU, I don't want it to look into the compensation of people in India. Just want to look into the compensation of US population. Okay, so I will constrain it with that particular supervisory organization or a pay group. Okay, that's the simple, I think, in terms, if I can explain, it just helps you constrain the security to a particular kind of supervisory organization or a cost center or a pay group level.
In terms of integration
is you have constrained and unconstrained in terms of integration. Integrations also can have access to the whole population in the tenant as well as to a particular set of operation, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. I think maybe while answering those questions, I missed telling you the steps if you guys have missed. So let's go in again. So what you do is like go to the related actions of the integration system, go to Workday account and then edit. All you need to do is like just maybe if you do not remember, note it somewhere, the ISU you have created and put the name and put enter and there would be a selection that will come. And this is the 1-to-1 mapping kind of go ahead and give a different kind of ISU. You see, this is not a checkbox. You can select only one. That you need to be very sure of the user you are trying to look for. Okay, so this is my ISU. You can maybe ignore these fields. It just says preferred languages, the preferred hour clock that happens in the background. Like this user has like the preference of these user account details.
So
Just
if you
click on
want to
OK.
configure this for set up this for multiple users, all these things has to be done again.
No, you cannot set up that integration system for multiple users. You can have only one ISU per integration.
Okay, those are all the users.
Yeah, those were all the users created in ISU, like in this tenant. Those are available. So as soon as I select a Workday account, right?
Mhm.
So I hope you're mentioning about the screen where I showed you a lot of ISUs coming up, right?
Correct.
Right.
So is
Okay,
this
so
the
these are
user or
this is a user, ISU user, like integration
so you are
system
selecting
user.
only one here, correct?
I will select only one, right? So if you remember, 1 second, I created this ISSG, okay,
Okay.
and then I created this ISU in the first place, okay. This is the ISU I'm going to be used. This ISU is subscribing to the securities within sitting inside this ISSG. So the securities in the table you see do not directly belong to the ISU, they belong to the IS, okay. And
Okay.
then if you subscribe to this ISSG, like if you put this user and this
Not for
particular
another
group,
user. Okay.
yes. And if you want say another integration, you want to have the same set of integration system securities,
You can
all you
copy.
need to do is
Yeah.
no, don't even copy. What you do is like maintain domain security policies in this page. Do you get it? Or maybe on the edit page you get it. I think on this page you want that would be coming. Low. 1 second. You go in integration system security group. Okay, now you see I can add any kind of users available. So you say I have created 6 for my 6 integrations. You can add all of these into the group. So you add them
basically the
into the
group
group.
has all the setup and to the group you
Right.
can configure the users.
Right.
Okay.
And then in integration, there will be only one user per integration because you want this kind of same setup or same security, then you create another ISU, okay, and then just tag it to the same ISSG or the security group, and that ISU you can use in the second integration. You do not have to go in and recreate all that ISG, this kind of setup again. You can just subscribe, like make your ISU subscription as a group of, like as a participant of this group kind of thing. Okay. So what I will do now again is go ahead and record the events only. Okay, so this was a completed event. If you can see, we already had the files generated and everything there. So what I'll do is like relaunch. So I told you like how to relaunch or maybe use the parameters. So these are the date parameters. If you want to check in for or verify from here, you can use this. Otherwise, there's also one step called integration event. You go to relaunch integration event. The parameters will automatically get populated for you. All you have to do is click OK. So I have launched the same kind of integration with the same kind of parameters just to show you, or maybe to check for myself even, that is the data similar, because we did not had any ISU configured earlier. It was running on my thing, but now it will, no, it says initiated by me, but it will show you when I, okay, you see, run as user. Now it is showing ISU IRN. It is running as ISU, not as my account. So as complete, why didn't the integration encounter error when which prevented in obtaining the list of workers with data changes? Okay, this is something related to the ISU. So you even see the ISU, the integration encountered an error which prevented in obtaining the list of workers with data changes. Okay, so there is some issue with the ISSG. What we'll go do is maintain domain permission. So data changes were for, is there any particular domain that's setting this with this name? Worker data, benefits and with workers, worker data workers, worker data directory, worker data ID, worker ID. Yes. Manage data changes. report data changes on demand, stuff range of data and reason, manage proposal report. There's one. Let's try to give it on the view as well. If it is using any worker web service, that is fine. View is worker web service. That is would be worker. So data is like work integration audit. That's where it gets tricky to you. Like you might be that or clear time on it data to pick up web. And I think there is one domain or I with the information I've given how it comes out. So that's where you see it's tricky for you to just identify the kind of CCW permissions. Since even it has been a long time for me to directly work with that, some kind of permission I believe that was missing and might be still missing for activate pending security policy changes. Okay, now since we have last done it on this timestamp and sorry from this timestamp and I'm doing it now, it only holds changes that I've done recently. So only 3 rows for domain security policy changes that I've done, and let's try to reinitiate it. I still believe there is one domain that I'm not really remembering. It needs to be Curwood we can first 0801 0801 that is whole. There was one niche integration given the configure build subscription also I believe given integration event are given access to subscription integrate configure integrate and debug also get something. That's not going through. It's again failed with the ISU encountered an error onboarding the list of workers with data changes on score rather than one and updating the list of workers with data changes. I think, let me see. Okay, so it is initiating, but it is not getting the changes only kind of transaction. Okay, so yes, there is some domain in particular, I believe, that looks for that integration to compare the data like before and after data, which we see, and then give you data changes or data changes only 5. So that's where it is getting prevented from sending the output. Otherwise, it's hitting the file output file development as well. The only thing is it is not able to do the operation of comparing the data changes like the pre and post kind of prior value and current value kind of thing. So that one domain I will just figure it out in the background and let you know. Okay. But yes, basically that's how you run the integration, and once maybe this is sorted and run for 1 second. They're not having the data changes right. Maybe run for full file or 0101 2025. Does it give the same kind of error in the full file as well? Now you see earlier when we used to run an integration, it used to run in something like this, where the integration event you'll be able to see directly. Okay. But now we are getting this page because we have now associated a business process with it. And this is where you see the different kind of steps involved in processing of the integration. You have this initiation step, then you have a trigger, and if there would be a delivery, it will also be shown in here, and that will show you the entire flow of the. Now it's getting fail again for the same thing, encounter and obtaining the changes for the workers. I believe it is not getting the diagnostic kind of. You see also the diagnostic audit is not getting generated, so it is missing some technical kind of, not on a object kind of level, but yes, something to relate it with the W security or one particular domain might be missing. So this when you have a BP2 and integration, generally you will see this integration event kind of thing. But when we have a BP, there is an overall process. So what is an overall process? It will have your integration event as well as your delivery or any kind of subsequent integration if you have tagged to your BP that after this integration maybe consume this data into a studio integration. So the entire flow will happen under the overall process or the parent. Okay. Any questions on how to maybe on the steps regarding how to create an ISSG, how to associate an ISU to an ISSG, and how to in turn attach that ISU to an integration system? This is an issue where we are seeing the data is not getting generated because one of the security permissions is missing, and this is what you will also be kind of facing in real time. That's why I don't believe in creating it in background, because then I would sort it my something in already, and maybe you will not be able to even identify if something of this sort happens. Okay, but yes, this is what you will be getting in case of any errors or issues. The integration will send you an event or error telling that we are not able to do this particular kind of operation inside the integration, and you will have to then go back to and check and see what kind of domains that would be missing and required for this particular operation to be performed.
I think even if we create a user or whatever configuration we just spoke about the security, I don't think we can really run it because that user has to be configured in Workday, correct? With your password and
Right.
stuff. You have to log
Right.
in to that user to perform all these operations.
Right. But we do not allow UI sessions.
Correct. Okay.
So yeah, the next topic would be, I think, any questions more on?
Can you just show me how do we tag that integration with the integration user?
Yeah, sure. I think that's where we go to the related actions of the integration system. At the bottom of the list and the related actions, you have this Workday account. Okay. So you go to the edit Workday account, and that's where you see.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think one of the other key things or important things is like I tagged this Workday account initially, right, while creating the ISU. Maybe you create the ISU, you have gone to create an ISSG first and then create an ISU. So what you can do is go to security group and the ISSG and edit. And from here, you can add the ISU into the ISSG you have created. So these are the two things that you might need to note. That the task, what are the tasks we do, how we do the configuration of the securities. We use the create security group task. We use unconstrained tasks for most of the integration unless until there is a requirement for specific requirement for a report or a say integration to look only for a particular kind of population. On those cases, we just create a constraint security group, and if you want to see, again, I'll show you the now, and it is also relevant to what we have integration. In an integration, we have two kinds of security group, constrained and unconstrained. And like in the interviews, it does come to you that what's the difference between a constrained and an unconstrained security group. So earlier we created unconstrained with the name. You can say it is not restricted on any particular domain. It has a wider view or wider access to the entire population in the tenant. So constrained demo. So now you see there are different kind of options available to you. In the non-constraint, you just had that ISU, and you do not have these options to access rights for organization. You had different organizations, but say you want to all organizations by type. You want to yeah. You have created a payroll integration and you want it to be constrained to a particular geography and particular pay group applied to our current organization. There are two options. Only apply for current organization and all subordinates. Usually you use this particular subordinate one because you might be required to select the top level kind of organization in here, and you want, since this is the hierarchy or the top level, everything follows under this organization is also having the same principle. So you will go ahead and select current organization and all supervisory organizations, and rest of the things are similar. If you integration system user, I think I give anything GHX or anything. Okay, this is now exactly the similar kind of operations you go over do for a unconstrained security group as well. You have the same kind of options: view, modify, report, and task, put and get for integrations permission. But yes, in terms of maybe interviews, you go for integrations. they might ask you what kind of security groups that are available to you for creating and what's the difference. Okay, so the next topic is document transformation. I'll start with the document transformation part, how to create a DT, but the XSLT part, like what goes inside the XSLT and how to write the XSLT, we will do in the next session, because that might be prompting you to ask many questions if you're seeing the XSLT for the first time. But creating a DT is a general task. What goes inside the logic is something that sits on the XSLT, like the kind of logical transformation we do that sits inside the XSLT. This is just another connector which will hold your XSLT. You cannot directly attach an XSLT to a what we call as an integration system. Okay, so for that we will go ahead and create integration system. Okay, I will have this INC and I think DT. Okay, DT document formation as the template we are transformation as the template we are looking for. So that's the right one. What we do is just create and this kind of window opens. It's showing you the integration system uses a document as reference, which is not fully configured. Yes, because a DT will always require a document configuration. So configure integration attachment service. You go to related actions. Okay, I'll go down slowly. Integration related actions, integration system. You can ignore all the attributes and all those sequence generators. You do not need to do it in this. You directly do it on the parent integration. That is all you need to do is like click on integration attachment, then create an integration attachment service if you're doing it for the first time, and then maybe do it. Okay. So there are two options. Either you can like just go to the directory and everything, and but in Workday we also have something like drag and drop. I will drag drop this here. It goes down. I will save this. The error will also go. Okay. Now the DT has been, there is an integration generator. I do not want it. So that's why it's a warning. You can ignore that. So now what I'm saying is DT isn't separate integration system and your CCW is a whole together separate integration system sitting in Workday. How do you think we can maybe try to configure them and bring them on the same page and configure them together? What are the possible options we have? Anyone help me?
Yeah, the attachment service, maybe we can call that CCW.
No. Anyone else want to try? We have already
business process.
Yes, we have already done this. Like I've shown you. So on the business process definition, you go to the business process definition. Remember I showed you that there is another, apart from the services, there is another type of step you can do on a business process. Get the edit definition. Okay, give it the time, take the time. For this, I want the delivery to be the last step. So first I want the integration to run, initiate, complete, and then I want another integration. Okay. So that's where the integration comes in handy. Now you have created a step and you want to attach your DT to it. Irrespective of what's there on the XSLT, this is the same. All you need to do is put in the name. It will come up as static text. That's fine. That's what the option you leave it to. And then that's it. Whatever it has there now on the parent business process will be reflected in here. Okay, so now the business process error has also gone. We got the integration on the integration step. So you see now the initiation will happen, the fire of integration will happen. Then once that is completed, it will come down. The output file will come down to this step. The output file of the CCW will be taken as an input into the DT. And then as soon as this step completes or this integration completes, the final output from the DT is moved forward to the delivery step, and from the delivery step, it is transmitted via the SFTP configuration to your vendor. That's the like workflow or business flow of integration that is desired to send data from Workday of the demographic details like name, first name, phone number, email, all those things from Workday to your vendor side. A third party system. Okay, I hope you understood this, how we map two integrations together, not just in case of DTs, but in a generic term as well. Even if you want to map a studio to a parent integration, say a payroll integration or a CCTW integration, you do it in the same way. You use the type as integration, and in here on the configuration step, you give the studio integration name. And this is a typical flow of integration that sends data like an outbound kind of integration, even if it has like multiple integrations attached to it. This is where the first or the parent integration will run, which will get the data. Then maybe there are integrations that are transforming the data, and then there would be the last step would be the delivery. Okay. Any questions around this? Okay, guys. Since the next topic would be something on the XSLT, which will look like this. Say, I'm trying to get a name, and because creating all this will take at least 10 to 15 minutes. So I've tried to create a sample, but yes, we will add certain values which we are seeing on the output file. So this is the output file we got from the previous event or each event. So I've tried to get the first name, last name, and the hire date, but I will definitely go ahead and on the call itself try to get you the position IDs or any of the particular fields you call out. We will add it on the output file as a text, and then what we are doing in this operation is sending, like transforming the XML data into a CSV kind of format, so that when the whole integration process completes, you have a CSV at the end of the integration event as an output. Okay, so XSLT we will be doing the next session.
Okay, so can we convert XML to JSON through document transformation?
JSON, I think it is possible. In XML itself, you write the JSON tag, right? So in the XML, you can write the JSON tags, have that manipulation, and do it. Yes.
Okay.